You're watching 5-inch Floppy on GameArena.com.au. I'm Junglist. We mentioned a couple weeks ago that the MOBA genre is now so big you can't ignore it. But it's also a genre afraid of change. Any attempt to improve on it is met with extreme resistance, as the makers of Demigod found out. This is not a good thing. The genre does need to change. The slippery slope of feeding enemies gold and experience when you die means you know who the winner is long before they win, in what can be 40, 50, 60-minute matches. That's where Uber Entertainment comes in. We reviewed Monday Night Combat in one of our earliest episodes. It had elements of games like League of Legends and Heroes of Newerth, but it was mostly a Team Fortress 2 clone. Rather than move on to something new, Uber Entertainment are making Super Monday Night Combat, which brings it a little further down the spectrum between shooter and action RTS. This is now less a game about quick frags and a kill-death ratio, and more about pushing down different lanes with your constantly spawning creeps until you eventually reach the enemy base. And over the last few months, community feedback has been taken very seriously. The result, we think, is a damn good game which, in trying to be a hybrid, ends up with elements all its own. Because the game was live so early, they were able to test out their payment system as well. Community feedback said that the virtual currency that masked the real-world value was unpopular. So they got rid of the funny money, and now you can see the real-world value of all the items in the store. Speaking of the store, just like League of Legends, the freely available champions are on a rotating roster. If you really like one, you can buy it, either with real money or currency earned in-game. There are upgrades to get as well, and for when you're really owning, you're gonna want a premium taunt, made that much sweeter by the fact that the person you just killed is forced to watch them.
Dig that!
The more positional awareness players need to have, the more action-y the game is. And one of the best ways to bring positional danger into your game is to have positions that cause outright death. In this case, the edge of the map.
Wow!
An Iceman snuffs himself. Hey man, there's always something to hope for.
Ah, the ring out. There's not much more humiliating than banishing someone to the transparent polygons far below. An art form, really. Which is why it's this week's 10 seconds of unedited footage. But as we all know, in the MOBA universe, you don't need an endless waste to fall in for there to be danger on the map. The closer you are to your enemy's base, the closer you are to their spawn, their turrets, the more little hallways they can spring out of, and the more chance of getting ganked. See this guy here? He's about to commit the cardinal sin of MOBA games: overextension. But the overextension concept plays out a little differently in SMNC. It's normal in shooting games and games like League of Legends for people to move the same speed. The only way to improve that speed is through gear or the use of an ability. And TF2 aside, in shooters everyone goes the same speed. Aside from power-ups or skill techniques like rocket jumping and bunny hopping, if you're chasing someone, you're not going faster. In Super Monday Night Combat, they've opted to have different speeds for classes. Why? Because there's no one-shot, one-kill. Rather than it rewarding Twitch headshots like this, you need to consistently track the target, keeping your cursor on it until it breathes no longer. Naturally, this is harder to do if your target is fast. Movement speed versus aim is one of the cores of class balance in SMNC. Squishy classes will be faster. They'll also have a host of oh shit abilities that you might expect, such as a big jump that stuns everyone nearby, or just a constant rolling animation. On the other side of the coin, big and slow classes have a few tricks up their sleeve for when they're caught with their pants down. But one thing worth mentioning is the big slow classes are definitely easier to play, whereas the tower diving fragile classes require a lot of skill and game knowledge to constantly flirt with the bottom of their health bar in a way that makes everyone think, how the hell did he live through that? There's an inherent benefit to flirting with danger in Super Monday Night Combat, because bullets drastically lose power over distance. See here, every bullet at long range does about this much damage. Not much, right? Move up a little closer, and it's this much. And finally, short range for maximum bullet strength. This not only helps balance classes that were meant for long range, it's a system that constantly draws you towards combat, daring you to overextend, especially for classes like the Gunner. That's a lot of bullets right there. Imagine if each bullet was doing more damage. It's this thought process that constantly draws you forward until, uh-oh, you've overextended. But dying doesn't feed your enemies as much as it does in other MOBA games. It gives them an advantage, but it's not to the point where people will just quit the match the first time you die. This is partly because of the amount the other team is rewarded for a death, and partly because you don't buy gear in SMNC. The money you get from kills is instead spent on spawning more bots to rush at the enemy. This is interesting. Gear, as bought in normal MOBA games, has to fit an overall plan, but it automatically benefits you. There's a strategic element, but not a tactical one. It's not like you have to use that chess piece right to get plus 40 armor. Bots, on the other hand, have to be used both strategically and tactically. There are different kinds of bots you can spawn with different price tags, right up until the endgame jackpot. Importantly, in SMNC, your bullets go through your own bots, but not the enemy's bots. This means while creep pushing, bots can be used as one-way cover. The bullets go out, but they don't come in. If all other factors are equal and you have the bot in front of you, you win the encounter. That's just one way you can use one bot tactically. And all this combines with other elements like the out-of-the-way jungle area and a super weapon called the Annihilator you can fight over that eliminates all enemy bots. These things have a drastic effect if used properly, but because the game was open to players so early on, it's incredibly well balanced. And that brings us to endgame. We continue to have an absolute ball with Super Monday Night Combat, and you, the new player, get to take advantage of 38 weeks of the game being experimented with while live. It's a true marriage of the best parts of Team Fortress 2 and MOBA games, a team acting as one organism with all the decision-making, ganking, and lane pushing. Other than being on the front page of Steam, though, it hasn't received much exposure, so we really hope it maintains enough players for serious play. At the moment, it looks like in the Oceanic servers, there's only enough people to play it around peak time. But for the moment, it looks like a slow burn. The people who are into it are staying into it. And even though the Oceanic server only has really enough people to play it around peak time, it's free and definitely worth checking out.